insane time that we're having. We really appreciate the effort. It is absolutely my greatest pleasure to introduce our speaker for tonight, Ashley Dudarenok, who really doesn't need an introduction, but I'll go through it anyway, and you can let me know if I've left anything out. So LinkedIn Top Voice 2019, a 3-time Amazon best-selling author, global keynote speaker, blogger, podcaster, and the founder of Chinese social media agency Alaris and China marketing training company Chosan. Did I say that correctly?
Perfect. We practiced well.
And something that we're really excited to introduce tonight is her latest initiative, FIRE, which we'll talk about later. It's all about the self-development, mentorship program for professionals and entrepreneurs. And it's specifically designed for women, although I think 30% are actually men.
Yes, 30%. Every time it's increasing. More and more men want to get in.
You want any secrets that you're giving the women?
I know.
Okay, well let's get started. How about we begin with you telling us your story, how you ended up from Russia to focusing your entire career on China.
That's right. So I was born in the Russian Far East, in a place called Vladivostok. I was born in the last years of Soviet Union, so yes, I'm from a non-existing country. And when I was, basically I was born in Asia, right? And I was in a place that was full of Koreans and Japanese, and essentially Vladivostok borders on North Korea, Japan, and mainland China. So it was really cool, but that was not the reason why I came to China. The reason was love, okay? I was 17 years old, and why would a girl at 17 years old, when I came to mainland China, travel across the globe and basically end up in a city called Chongqing? That time I couldn't even pronounce what that was. Chongqing was population-wise the largest city in the world, but I couldn't find a Wikipedia page on it. So it was back 2005, 2006. And a boyfriend of mine at the time, he was studying Chinese, and that was a cool place we could go together, do university, etc., etc. So that's how I ended up in China. It was not for the love of dragons and noodles and kung fu. All that came much later. But I ended up in China at 17. I studied, I was good at school always, so I learned Chinese quite quickly. And then I enrolled in local university, and essentially I did my major in business. So I studied linear algebra with Chinese students in Chinese. So when people ask me, Ashley, you're blonde and all your businesses are related to China, like, isn't it a bit strange? I say, yeah, I learned linear algebra in Chinese with Chinese students in a city called Chongqing. And I was foreigner number 50 in that city because my visa permit in the city, like long-term visa, was number 50, okay? So those were the days. And after 4+ years in Chongqing, it was a lifestyle choice. I wanted to stay connected with China, but I didn't want to retire in Chongqing. I didn't see myself there 50 years down the road. So I thought, what's an alternative? What would be an international place, an international city? And that was Hong Kong. So I came to Hong Kong in 2010, and I worked in PR first, and later on, basically PR marketing. I always loved that industry. And then in 2011, I started my own business. Slowly and gradually, here we are.
And what is it about China that meant that you wanted to focus your entire career on it, and especially marketing as well?
Well, China, right? China has shown us many miracles in the past 30 and 40 years. We all know how quickly that market developed. We all know that a lot of innovations are right now coming out of China, especially when it comes to marketing, to digital marketing, to basically implementation of AI as technology. This is where China leads. And when I got to China in 2006, and I've been to mainland China before, so I've seen what it was before. I've seen a nation that was just going through such a huge transformation. First, social media channels, blogs, were basically introduced into the market, and people embraced it. And everybody was online, and everybody was on a mobile device. Nobody had PC computers or laptops. And it was just so fascinating to see the speed. I'll give you just a couple of examples. I got to Chongqing. We barely opened our first McDonald's, okay? 2006, barely opened first McDonald's. When I was leaving, they had Gucci, Jaguar, you name the brand that wasn't in the market. Right? And of course, in terms of social media platforms, at the very beginning, all the Western social media platforms were also there, but their local alternatives back then copycats, were a lot stronger and much more interesting. And of course, some of them evolved. Like there was a huge Weibo war when Weibo was like, it's like Twitter plus Facebook. So there was not just one Weibo from one company, but there were many. And they were fighting. It was a bloody war. And, you know, consumers were really picking and choosing. And everybody was on Taobao. Hong Kong is still not really familiar with digital commerce. I mean, yes, US is a bit better, Europe is getting there. But back in 2006, everything I purchased, literally, I went home once a year or so, and I would buy, like a good Chinese girl, I would buy all my relatives the gifts. So I would travel from China to Russia, and I would purchase them all those funny, you know, feet heaters. Yeah. I mean, that's like, I do not know whether you use one, but if you don't, get yourself one. So you go to Taobao, 200 RMB, and you get yourself this little thing. And in winter, you can really, it saves you. So I bought all of those things for all of my relatives, all these massage chairs that, you know, you equip your chair with this and it massages you. All that stuff on Taobao. And it was 2006, 7, 8. It was crazy. So fascinated with that market, I knew that professionally, that was a phenomenal market, and I truly connected with Chinese people because Chongqing was the place where you didn't see those Beijingers or Shanghai people, but you saw real China, okay? Sichuan had a lot of farmers. It had a lot of people that made it at the same time by building their factories in China. So they were very wealthy people that rode on this rise of China. But there were also farmers coming from the countryside, and they were bangbang man. Who's a bangbang man? The guy who has a stick, a bamboo stick, and he helps you carry your groceries from a supermarket to your home. And he charges you 2 to 3 RMB. So you live in a city, 34 million people, and a vast majority of them are bangbang people. There's a lot of cleaning ladies that work for close to nothing. And then there are people that build factories, that build fortune. There was a guy who built one of the world's largest motorcycle companies in Chongqing called Zhongshan. This guy owned a mountain. I'm not kidding, a mountain, and he built a huge castle there, and all of his relatives lived, literally, it looked like, thank you. It felt exactly like that. You enter to his house, he had this little bell, it went ding dong. I mean, it's crazy. And that was Chongqing. So essentially, that's why I decided to stay connected with China, because I knew the future is there. And yeah.
Through your company, Alaris, you must have a lot of people that come to you trying to enter the China market, a lot of Western companies coming to you. What are some of the biggest challenges or misconceptions that people have about entering the China market?
Well, I think by now everybody understands that this is a complex market. Everybody knows that you don't just go to China. You need to have a lot of money. China is not cheap. Chinese consumers are not stupid. It's the most sophisticated market and consumer in the world. They've done it, they've seen it, they know what they want, what they don't want. So you cannot bullshit your way in or out. In terms of misconceptions, a lot of people believe that they know how to promote their brand. So they just need to know what is the channel to promote their brand. But when you go to China, you need to invest in strategy. You need to invest in research. And if you don't do that, you're going to waste a lot of money trying to target the wrong people with the wrong message. But again, right now, the misconceptions are actually very industry specific, because 5 years ago, everybody pretty much had the same, they were the same badly informed. And you could say these are the 3 worst things you could do in China. Right now, depending on the industry, they have their own pitfalls. And you really need to speak with the right people, and you need to do the right things. Essentially, it's an expensive market, which is very exciting, but it's difficult.
But are there some common pitfalls that you experience, and it doesn't really matter which industry you're talking about?
Not having enough money. Also setting unrealistic KPIs. I'll tell you how, let's say, European or American companies set KPIs. They say, okay, this is our market, this is our home market, and we invest so much money, and this is our ROI. So we expect China to be plus minus a little bit. And I say, just throw it out of the door. This is not going to happen. For 18 months, you're going to lose money. And they go, what? I say, well, if you're not prepared for this market, then probably you shouldn't do that. So setting unrealistic KPIs, not having enough money, is a very big problem. And why? Because people are delusional. People are delusional. People think still somehow that China is sitting there and waiting for their product to come. And Chinese market is just so oversupplied. There's so much demand from local and international competition that wants to get in. So these are the common things. Rather than that, a lot of people ask whether they need to appoint somebody who is actually Chinese to manage their, let's say, digital or e-commerce or whatever other channels. And the answer is yes. You need to have somebody with Chinese language, somebody understanding the concepts, understanding this market. And no, you cannot have a foreigner that learned Chinese for 3 months. You can't have that. You can have this person given direction, but you need to trust your local team and let your local team run the show. But I think most people also in business already understand that. But probably medium-sized companies are still trying to cut some corners.
So I listed out a very impressive group of accolades that you've had come up to this point. What is it that actually gets you up in the morning and motivates you to keep doing and achieving?
Well, I love what I do. I don't know whether it comes across, but I actually love what I do. And this was also a journey for me when I started this whole entrepreneurship journey. Business was a chore. Like, I hated it. It was like a way to make money, and there were a lot of fears, and it also was not nice. I mean, people are not really nice to you when you're a small entrepreneur. I mean, you used to work for a company and you had this title and you would come in and say, yeah, our office has this, corner view or whatever, and right now you're suddenly an entrepreneur and people ask you, how many people are on your team? And you go like, oh. Or people ask, so where exactly is your office? Lord forbid you're working out of co-working space. I mean, all those things. So what gets me up in the morning, because I went through this journey of really discovering what it is I love in entrepreneurship, changing my attitude towards it. I love working with the people that I'm working. So because I'm an entrepreneur, I can choose my team. So I don't really come to the office and be like, oh my God, I hope somebody doesn't talk to me today at all because I really dislike that person. You know, that happens a lot in group dynamics in various organizations. But for me, I really love that. And I also love bringing value. And through my, let's say, thought leadership on LinkedIn and other platforms, I'm able to have the voice. And it's not just the voice for me, right? But it's the voice introducing an industry or introducing a market, and I bring value and I see how it impacts people's lives or sometimes people's businesses or very often both. And that is quite exciting.
I mean, you're extremely positive. Your enthusiasm is literally vibrating across the room. It's infectious. But there must have been days or experiences that were extremely challenging. Could you tell us about one of them and how you sort of moved past it or got over it or fixed it?
Right. So the worst period of my life was literally when I started this whole entrepreneurship thing. Again, when it started, probably for the first year, I was all optimistic and it was all great. I mean, it wasn't bad. I was like, what is the worst thing that could happen? Yeah, I mean, the worst thing that could happen, you are basically going to struggle a little bit, and then you're going to close the whole thing, wrap it up, and basically go back to the corporate job, and that's it. But then, once you get deeper and deeper into that, so you have an office, you have people, and sometimes you're just so caught up in your own mindset, so you don't see a way out. You are literally... You feel very alone. When you are a part of an organization, you have colleagues, you have peers, you can talk to them about, but here you feel really alone and something is not working out, and all those fears and limiting beliefs that you had before, they just coming to the surface, and every little thing that is negative, it basically just builds up like a snowball. So I remember very early in the day, we had that client that basically we provided service to, and then he was supposed to pay 5 installments. He paid 2. And then he literally comes to me and says, Ashley, I don't have money anymore to pay you the remaining 3 installments. And I just got myself an office and hired 2 people. And I'm sitting there, I was like, how can this be? How is this legal? I thought somebody's going to come and protect me. Like, how is this legal, right? You don't show up in a bakery and say, you know what, give me bread and then I might pay you half. That just doesn't work this way. I was like, how is this possible? We had an agreement, everything is signed, there's a chop, there's a signature. So I was like, literally, I was so shaken by this reality of the world because I was not prepared for that. I thought, like a good girl, we agreed and this is going to happen. No, it does not. And then, of course, as I said, there were a lot of fears. Like, I used to have a very screwed up relationship with money, like a lot of good girls do. Like, you don't ask for it. It's going to come. Somebody's going to offer you enough money for what you're doing. Somebody's going to acknowledge how outstanding you are. Bullshit. You need to tell them how much you're worth. And if they don't want it, you move on. And when enough people want it, you double your prices. Okay, so this is entrepreneurship secret or whatever other secret, and cheers to that. But yeah, there's been some dark times, but I'm very, very lucky that I had my husband to basically help me through that. I would sometimes come and like cry on his shoulder, like, oh, that's it, I'm closing this business. But you just need to be in business, literally, guys, 3 years, magic number. When people told me 3 years, I was like, I'm an overachiever. Bullshit. I'm not gonna do it for 3 years, I'm gonna do it faster. I'm gonna collapse that timeline. No. No. You think you are succeeding in the first year, wait until the second year. Then it sort of picks up, wait until the third year. But beyond that, I don't know what it is. Maybe it's reputation, maybe you just need time to make all those mistakes and to learn stuff. But essentially you get out of it, and on the third year, what happened with me, I really got into thought leadership. I really got into all these things that totally transformed my business. And then I got this huge client, and I was like, okay, and now in order to serve this client, I need to work on myself. And that's where my self-development, personal growth, and whatever journey started. Because as an entrepreneur, it all comes from within. And your organization can never, ever outperform the mindset of the founder. If the mindset is small, if you think small, if you dream small, that's it. So if you guys are working for somebody, make sure that this person's mindset is big, the dreams are big, the goals are big, the thinking is big, because otherwise you're basically working for a small dream, like really, really small.
So you mentioned that actually around the 3 years, that's when you started reading up on things, and especially psychology books, I remember you saying.
Yeah.
What were some of your main takeaways from all that reading?
So it was a lot of reading, then I started online programs, then I went into coaching. I basically hired a coach because as I said, we want this really big client, and I was like, how do I serve this client? I need to change the way I communicate with my team. I need to change the way we communicate with that client. And really, basically, I was totally confused. So I hired a professional psychologist. And back then, I come from a Soviet background. You hire psychologists when you're crazy. You don't go to a therapy, let's talk about it. No, it doesn't happen. So it was a big step for me, big step. I hired a psychologist. She's professionally trained in success psychology. So she worked with people that essentially suddenly, for instance, won a gold medal on Olympic Games, or suddenly got this VC funding, and now they need to grow like 50 times a year, 50 times a month or whatever, and they're totally confused on how to do that. So we had 6 sessions with her, and they totally transformed my life, right? And so what are the things that I learned from psychology? The first is probably leadership is all about yourself. So you first learn to lead yourself. You first work on your own mindset. And what are the 2 things you need to work on? Number 1, your limiting beliefs, and we all have them. Why you cannot have something, why something is not there, like I don't know, we have limiting beliefs about personal relationships, about money, about business, about all these different things, about who you are, about how you look, about who you should be. And the second thing you need to work on are your fears, and we all have a lot of fears. And what is the biggest fear? What do you think is the biggest fear that we all have?
Failure.
But why? What are we afraid when we fail? What are we afraid of?
Our image.
Our image? No legacy, yeah. At the end of the day, if we just strip those fears down enough, it will be a fear of basically not being loved, not being enough. You call it whatever you want, but we want legacy because we want to mean something, we want to be loved. And basically, we all need to work on all these different areas in terms of limiting beliefs and fears. And another thing is when you start understanding something in psychology, like you read all those books, you go through all those online courses, you have a mentor. I think a lot of people, they understand something about themselves and they instantly think that they understand everything about others. So this is something you shall not do, okay? No, you don't know anything about others. You just know a little bit about yourself. So don't go around, give everybody advice, unless they ask for it, and unless you are in some sort of relationship where this is appropriate, you are mentoring them, or again, they come as a friend.
I know we don't have that much time to go into it, but do you have any tips on how you actually start changing the way that you're thinking?
Yes. First of all, understanding the fact that energy is everything. Energy is your most important resource. And a lot of people think that this is time, or how smart you are, or what kind of connections you have. These are all very important things. But your biggest and most important resource is energy. And when you talk about energy, the person with the highest energy in the room always wins. Always. You walk into a negotiation meeting, you have the highest energy, you win. You walk into, an audience like this, if you are afraid, if your energy is somewhere there, nobody's going to listen to you, right? So energy is important. And it is up to you, and it's actually very, very simple to get this energy up. And I'm going to teach you today how to do that, okay? I'm going to teach you. I already see all of you like, how? Tell us how. So energy is important. What was the question again?
Well, you were saying you've got to get over your fears. You've got to get over. So how do you change these you grow up
patterns?
Yes, these patterns.
Right. Okay. So yes, now I got back into it. So energy. Second, negativity. Okay. A lot of us are caught up in our own mindset and also in those limiting kind of patterns that were passed on to us by colleagues, by bosses, by parents, by the society. So you need to prevent people and the world to pass on their fears and their negativity onto you. So for example, everybody chooses their way, but for me, for instance, I do not watch news. Shocking, right? Shocking, yes. I read The Economist once a week. But I do not engage in this behavior like you wake up in the morning, the first thing you do, you go to China Morning Post, you're sitting on the toilet and you go like, oh my God, oh, the day has just begun, but this is bad. This looks really, really bad. I don't go to bed watching, I don't know, CNN when they tell you good evening, and then for 30 minutes they tell you why this evening is really not so good. I just don't do that. I also very clearly identify people that I don't want in my life. You know, we all know that person. You know, it can be a family member. It can be a colleague, it can be just somebody, and their energy is it's just not good. It's really impacting you in a negative way. So you need to respect yourself enough to identify this person and eliminate or limit your exposure to the pollutant. Yeah, it is self-respect as well, and this is also a manifestation of self-love. So this is how you start working on it. And also the third one, definitely get a mentor or a coach. Okay, we all can get there. We are all smart people here in the room. You can all learn how to write a book. You can all learn how to do China marketing. You can all learn, believe me, how to run a successful business. You can do it all. But it's going to take you 20 years. Do you want to do it the hard way? Or do you want to pay somebody some money to show you the way how to do it in probably 2 to 3 years? Or, I mean, my book, the first book, took 3 months. Okay? I pay somebody and they walk me through the process, and then it's just much faster. The same thing with mindset. The same thing with psychology. I told you this first success coach, I hired her for 6 sessions. It was 6 hours. Transformed my life. I paid her a lot of money. That time it was for me a lot of money. Right now I would have paid her 10 times more. Yeah, if I had to do that again, if I know what it would lead to. So.
Well, I think that brings us very nicely to FIRE, your mentorship program. Are there typical problems that you have recognized women as facing in the office? Various obstacles that are specific to women?
Well, when I started FIRE, it was probably half a year ago. I specifically targeted women because I thought that I understood, women's journey much better, because I cannot claim I understand how does it feel for a man to become a great leader and to really, kind of peel off all that stuff and, become who he is and build a successful business just because I'm not a man. But it feels right now that actually the journeys are very, very similar, much more similar than what I thought. But yes, for women, I think that we still have a lot of cultural biases. We have a lot of bullshit that was passed on to us from our mothers, grandmothers, from the society. And you just need to work a little bit harder in some areas. But for guys, they have exactly the same stuff, but in other areas. So it's all also there.
What are the areas?
So what are the areas? For women, for instance, I mentioned before, we have a really screwed up relationship with money. I can guarantee you, of all the ladies here in the room, you have a problem. You cannot name a price, you don't know what you're really worth, you are uncomfortable. Sometimes you think that your dreams about money, like first of all, a good girl cannot really want a lot of money. This is like bad. Money is something dirty. My God, people that have a lot of money, all that stuff, these patterns that run in your head. And they are there. I guarantee you 100% of the ladies in the room have one way or another a really screwed up relationship with money somewhere there. Yeah? What else? Dreams. For a man, it's dreams. Man forgot how to dream. Like you ask a gentleman to write down 10 dreams that he has got, not for somebody else, but for himself. So it's not that I want a Ferrari car because my mom thinks it's cool or my girlfriend really would like me, but what do I want for myself? What is my, and they go like, okay, I can write 2, but beyond that, it's really, really difficult. And for that, you need to relearn how to dream again. You need to start noticing the things that people have or people do that you really connect with, and you start writing them down. And all of that is a journey of really connecting with yourself and also growing that self-love. I also, by the way, used to think that self-love is primarily for women, that women lack that self-love. No, men lack self-love as well. Because when we were kids, basically we were not loved unconditionally. And our parents, no matter how good or bad they were, they screwed us up. They all did. They screwed us up. And that is why, basically, for the rest of our adult life, we need to work on ourselves to shape ourselves into what we want to be, not what we were basically shaped into by all these different things. Like some people had really good families, right? And when I say, oh, your parents really screwed you up, they go like, why? They screwed you up with perfection because the world is not perfect. Told you my story. I thought, in my little bubble, that was the way. Like you start the contract, people pay you money. No, the world doesn't work like this. So even perfect family screws you up.
I know in our last conversation you spoke that one of the main issues women have in your experience is the reticence to speak up and to push themselves into thought leadership positions. Do you have any advice for those that are afraid to step up into those positions for both men and women?
Absolutely. I think that one thing we all need to realize and understand and finally be comfortable with is the fact that this decade started just now, a couple of months ago. This decade is a decade of thought leaders, personal branding. And if you don't like those words, just call it reputation, okay? It's exactly the same. Thought leadership, personal brand, or reputation. And if you are not gonna speak up, if you're not gonna talk about yourself, you're not gonna talk about your area of expertise, somebody else will, and you will, within an organization, or especially within business, like industry, if you're an entrepreneur, you're going to disappear once a lot of people hop on that train. So it's no longer optional. You work for a company, you need to be a thought leader, you need to start sharing your knowledge, you need to put it out there. It's no longer optional. You must do that. Otherwise, the first people they are gonna get rid of when we have AI coming in about 5 to 10 years, and I'm working with China, I know that AI is coming, and a lot of jobs are gonna change significantly. So who are they going to get rid of? People that are less significant, people that are not doing thought leadership. Well, in my view, right? And if you're in business, if you are an entrepreneur, if you don't have the voice, if you don't have reputation, nobody will work with you. Because people work with people they know, like, and trust. How are they going to know you? Through digital channels. How are they going to like you? Because you have some interaction. You cannot spend time meeting them one-on-one. And because they trust you. How do they trust you? Because you show up every day, all the time. So it's really about that.
Now, FIRE covers a lot of different points. One of the main ones is actually leadership. What are your 3 main tips for leadership?
Well, with leadership, start leading yourself first. So sort out what's going on inside, right? Then, in terms of leading the team, surround yourself with the right people. I think it's like in love, if you want to have a beautiful, passionate relationship, you don't just go out, grab the first guy on the street and say, let's get married. You don't do that. You need to really pre-select the person. You really need to pre-select the people. So select people around yourself, select people for your team. Make sure that you have a phenomenal peer group, because this is literally, leadership-wise, this is something that makes or breaks you. Your expectations for your life are exactly the expectations of your peer group. If you hang out with people where you are the brightest parrot. I wanted to say a peacock, but you're the brightest bird in the flock. This is the wrong flock. At least out of the 10 people with whom you spend the most of your time, at least 3 need to be 10 times where you are right now, above you. They need to be 10 times wealthier, 10 times more important, smart, whatever it is you care about. 10 times, at least basically 3 of them. And then 3 of them can be below you, somebody you mentor, somebody you really love from your childhood, somebody's, really in all these crazy relationships or life circumstances, but you really want to connect with this person and stay with them. And then the rest of the people need to be your peers, somewhere where you are right now. And this is, this is appropriate. So select people in your life. That's very, very important.
Now, before we split off into the half time, at which point you will all be able to ask your own questions, as you'll see there's Q&A slips probably on your lap or maybe under you. Before we split off with that, I'd love to ask you, what's the best piece of advice you've ever received, and also the worst?
So for the best piece of advice, I would say be your life's CEO. You can do it all. Plan for it. Your life can be planned, and you can run it just as a company. So don't let it flow, and don't think that the life is going to guide you whichever way. Just build your own, reality. And also focus on your superpowers. Each of us has a superpower, not your weaknesses, but your superpowers, and just invest in them consistently. I actually have this, you've been in my office, so you've seen it, even in my bathroom, right? Literally, in my bathroom cubicle. You have a phrase which says, ordinary things consistently done produce extraordinary results, right? So that is why invest in what you're good at, and even if it's something small, just do it consistently and you're going to be awesome. And in terms of the worst advice, I think the worst advice that any person could ever get is the advice from the person you don't want to become in 10 years. Okay? In any area of your life. If you have a friend who has a shitty relationship and you go to that friend to ask, what should I do with my boyfriend? I mean, you are getting there. If you go to a person and you ask for advice, go to a person who is where you want to be in 10 years from now in terms of thought leadership, I do not know, books, success, whatever it is. And the worst advice, again, is just asking around and then trying to act on that unqualified direction. Yeah, this is like going to China without a proper strategy.
Is there anything else you want to say before we split off for the break?
Yes, I promised you that I'm going to share with you this amazing skill, how to keep your energy up. Are you ready for this? Yes. Are you ready? You will have to stand up.
I did anticipate this.
You did anticipate it, right? Yeah, so guys, we are all up right now. And I'm gonna tell you, this is gonna be amazing because I do it every single morning, okay? I do it every single time I have a call with a client or any important call. And actually, just now before I got here on this chair, I was in the bathroom. No, I didn't need to go to the bathroom, but I was in the bathroom doing this, okay? And no, I don't know what you thought. It wasn't that. It wasn't that. No. But I was doing this. Okay, we are going to shake that ass. Yes. And why are we doing? Okay, I'm going to tell you a little bit why we are doing this. We are going to do this because when you actually shake and stretch your body, it literally different hormones release in your brain, and you instantly feel more powerful. So I'm going to show you what I do in the morning, okay?
Good job, this is in perpetuity.
Yes. So shaking that ass can take several forms and shapes. My husband is here in the room and he can contest. Marius, please raise the hand. I do it every morning. Okay, so the first thing to shake the ass, and you can choose your own way, is just this. But you need to do it for 30 seconds, right? The second way, if you're not in that kind of thing, no problem. We do this. Yeah. So you choose your way. You either shake your ass or you do this. But we're going to do this together for 30 seconds, and you're going to tell me whether you feel more powerful. Okay? We are ready? Ready? 1, 2, 3, go! Woo! That's the way. I'm watching you. I'm watching you, ladies. Gentlemen, higher. I love that ass shaking. No, jump, yes. It's called ass shaking. Your ass needs to shake. Either you're jumping or shaking. That's the way. 10 more seconds. No, 10 more seconds. I'm watching you. 10 more seconds. Phenomenal. Give yourself a round of applause. Now guys, who does not feel more energized? Come to me if you don't feel more energized. We're going to do that again. But this is something, again, this is not a joke. I go to offices of my clients, like really big brands. I go to the bathroom, I do that. And the more you do that, the quicker you get yourself into that state. And then you walk in, and what happens? You have the highest energy in the room. And people go like, how can you be so energetic? Because I shake my ass.
All right, well, I can confidently say that we've never ended a segment like that in any way. But thank you so much, Ashley, for that. And please write your questions. We're going to take a 5-minute break, and we'll be collecting them to ask them after. Thank you so much. Thank you, Ashley.
Thank you.